Yes, it's one of the most emotional things you could do. The fifth metatarsal, which is the small toe, there's a ligamentation, or a tendon that goes through a hole in that fifth metatarsal. That, if you follow it up, comes up here, attaches to the TFL or the IT band, and then it attaches underneath your arm from the lats. So then where does that go? If your foot is tight and you have no rotation in your foot, you're also going to have tension here.
Wow.
Because it is a alignment that all attaches into one. You working with wrestling and martial arts, you have to have a center of gravity wherever your body's at. You're almost like the Matrix.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's one of the key components. Your center of gravity, if it's off, you're going to get flipped and they're going to end up on top.
Healing. I mean, oxygen is the number one healing for everything.
Yeah, Wim Hof, the guy we mentioned earlier with the breathing techniques, he says you can improve your immune system and heal disease with breathing. Hello and welcome to the Humans in Harmony podcast. My name is Garay, and we're joined today by another incredible guest, Miss Andrea Pollock. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's incredible to be able to talk with somebody that is so busy working on balance as they're living their life, getting better and living at the same time. Wonderful.
Thank you. And just for a little introduction, Andrea is a licensed massage therapist, nationally licensed, and she just has an intense depth of knowledge on the human body in all aspects. But I asked her if she wanted to focus on one topic, what would that be? And that was body alignment. So we're going to dive into that today and get into the nitty-gritty details, and then maybe sometime in the future we can come back and hit another topic in depth. So today we're going to hit some body alignment. So let's go ahead and start with how and why I went to go see you this week. So I've had this elbow injury for the longest time, and it's been annoying because it's not healing, and I can't lift weights heavy anymore. So I heard it in a jiu-jitsu match. I got arm barred, and it was in a tournament, so my adrenaline was flowing. I didn't feel pain, so I didn't tap out. Next thing I know, I hear pop, pop, pop. So then obviously I tapped out then, but the damage was done. And this was over 18 months ago, and I'm still feeling issues. So I bumped my weights down to like 5-pound dumbbells, just going through the motions on all my lifts, because I've always heard if you feel pain, you should not do it. That's your body telling you, hey, let's not do that. We can talk about that later. But the elbow has caused me to restart my lifting journey from scratch, lightweight, and I was able to build up eventually, and I was starting to build my way back up. I got to about 50-pound dumbbells on incline, and then it started hurting again, which I had thought I was healed, but you explained to me that I had just been compensating with my other muscles. So now I'm back to square one trying to heal this thing. And Andrea was the first person to explain to me how our body is interconnected in crazy ways that we do not understand. Like, I initially went to go see you for a back spasm. I was like, I had a pinched nerve or something. It would hurt when I lifted. And you were massaging everything but that spot. And I was like, what is going on? And you're like, well, this is connected to this, and that's connected to this, and this, and that. And I'm like, wow, this body is so much more complex than we understand. So I just want to dig into that and uncover some of that today and help people understand how complex and connected the muscular system is.
Well, it's really complex, but it's easy. If you think about a spider web, you touch one point of the spider web, you don't touch the whole thing, one point, and the whole thing shakes. Same thing with the body. I lived in Roswell, New Mexico for a while, and I worked with a PE teacher who did a paper on one move, the kick. Not running up towards it, not even pulling the leg back, but the one motion of the back, or the foot being back and kicking. Every muscle in your body's used. Every muscle. So that really started the journey there. But the other thing is, I worked with something that works a lot with the body's own muscle movement patterns. And that particular brand was started by a gentleman who was a martial arts expert.
Okay.
Could not find with laying down linear movements or massage that would work. So he would look at how he did this. You curve into your pain. So that's why when you thought you were healing, it wasn't healing as much. You had curved into it, so the muscles you were using, they start working slightly off, but they're still able to do their job. If you do 10 curls of injuries or so, you then become almost a Jenga game. And you pull one more out and everything falls down. So that hurt, you lift your shoulder, your neck goes off, your clavicle moves, your scap, everything is attached. So your ribs, your diaphragm, everything by that one pain here and how you curve around it. All of your body curves around that one curve.
Absolutely. And after you pointed that out to me this week, I worked out yesterday and I only made it halfway through my workout, and then I was just feeling my body and doing these movements, and I was feeling how it's connected to my back, my lower back, even down into my legs, coming from this stinking elbow. And I was just mind blown because this whole time I thought it was just my elbow that's hurt, but it's my whole stinking body. And you also pointed out it's also my opposite side that's thrown off as well. And I realized I've got a lot of work to do.
Most people don't understand compensation until it's pointed out. We talked about common sense, and common sense is only common sense if somebody has studied the problem and then points it out to you, and you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. But it didn't, because you didn't look at that angle. They studied it, and then they pointed out, and they're like, and you're going, everything now has so many different answers from that one point.
Absolutely. And that's part of this journey of body alignment and discovery, because so many times I'd be like, oh my gosh, I figured it out. Now I know the key to the puzzle. This unlocks everything. But it was just one extra little step. There's always another one. And now I just made a new discovery from you, the Psoas, but we'll get into that here in a bit. So first, what were we going to dive into next was alignment, body alignment, and the plumb line. It's so important. And I think most people overlook body alignment until it's an issue. Like, nobody is conscious of, well, you hear posture, which I had always known you need good posture, but I just thought it's like sit up tall. But there is so much more to body alignment than just sitting tall. And I first noticed it with my feet. I had flat feet, pronating since I was a kid, terrible balance. And one night I was in the shower and I was having those deep shower thoughts, and I was like, why does my balance suck so bad? And I got down in like this duck walk position, and I could not even hold stable there. I was wobbling all over the place. I'm like, why can't I hold stable? This has to be a learnable skill. So then I twisted my feet outwards to the outsides of my feet and got some outwards rotation in there, and all of a sudden the wobbling stopped. I was like, whoa, is this how I'm supposed to stand? So I stood up, my knees were in line, hips were closer. And I was like, no way. I've been standing wrong my whole entire life, and all it took was a mental shift. So then I did some research. I'm like figuring out how to stand, and sure enough, you shouldn't be standing on the insides of your feet with your ankles bowing in. So that was where my alignment journey started. But little did I know that chain was starting there and working its way all the way up to my head. And I've just been unlocking these different levels of alignment along the way, and I still have a long ways to go. But it's a lifelong journey.
So the fifth metatarsal, which is the small toe, there's a ligamentation, or a tendon that goes through a hole in that fifth metatarsal. That, if you follow it up, comes up here, attaches to the TFL or the IT band, and then it attaches underneath your arm from the lats. So then where does that go? If your foot is tight and you have no rotation in your foot, you're also going to have tension here.
Wow.
Because it is a alignment that all attaches into one. So if you were to think of curtains, or a Venetian blind, and you've got the one rope that comes up, that's exactly the same way the muscles work in the body. It's almost like you're rubber banded. So your hamstring, the muscle here in front, the sartorius, it comes around, and all three of them connect on the inside of the leg. Opening and closing your leg has everything to do with the pelvis. That also has everything to do. If you watch people on TV, you'll find that their head is straight if they sit behind a desk. But when they stand, they've altered it or curved into that in other places, because as they're watching TV, this is supposed to be straight. But then they curve around the rest. They stand up, and that curve is way different. Water. You could curve around anything on land. You go underwater, and your brain cannot reconnect. That's why there's such thing as water therapy with PT.
Interesting.
The brain cannot fool itself underwater.
Really?
Crazy.
I did not know that.
I
that
didn't
is
either,
fascinating.
till I hurt myself and went to PT, and I was doing these moves, and I've done water therapy, worked on people in therapy, helping their body, and I'm going, okay, I know how all these moves should work. Why is my brain not working? My symmetry was so far off, I had confused my brain. If you think of your brain as a computer needs latitude and longitude. If you're off kilter and you've been that way for a while, your body considers that to be the proper latitude and longitude. The minute you're given the actual, like when you do pressure points on the same point, what happens? Your brain goes, oh wait, that's not quite right. One side may hurt a little more. There's more tension. As soon as that tension rearranges, your pain level drops, your brain gets more oxygen, and your feet get more oxygen. It's all crazy with your alignment and breathing.
Wow. That's fascinating. And I've been making these discoveries along the way, just feeling these different connections that I never felt before. Coming from this body alignment, I'm feeling better control and muscle targeting during my lifts. I can really isolate muscles when I have the proper alignment, and I'm unlocking new control of my body that I did not have before. And it's just mind-blowing. I mean, what would you say is one of the most important things when it comes to body alignment?
Breathing.
Okay.
They call the psoas, which is this muscle we were talking about. It covers almost your whole stomach area, the whole abdomen. But where it attaches to is actually your breathing. The reason they call this the soul of the body is because every emotion holds your breath. If you have a new baby, if you have an accident, if you think of school, no matter what you think about, good emotions, bad emotions, all emotions are going to hold your breath. As soon as you tighten up, you're not getting oxygen to your muscles. There is no flexion. If you forget to breathe as you're working on form, what happens?
Tightened up, things aren't working.
Exactly. So if you were saying something, you work and get well at the same time. You have your life and you're getting well and living both. With that being said, that's the exact same thing as you're doing your workouts. If you're breathing in and out as you're doing that, and there's 8 million different types of breathing, and each one has its own abilities and rhythms. You don't run and breathe the same way as you do with your workouts. So trying to teach formats of breathing is, you could take a lifetime and not hit all of them. If you teach yourself to breathe below your diaphragm.
Yes.
Okay? So many people get up in their head and they're thinking and thinking. Even as you're doing your workout, you're concentrating so much on what is in your head that you forget breathing is beyond there. So all you have to do, if you touch your stomach, pat your leg, move your feet, any of that actually brings your oxygen into your body below the diaphragm. Otherwise, you're up here and you just, like me, here I am talking and I'm starting my lean forward because I'm not breathing as well.
Right.
Okay, so actually there was a university instructor, taught sociology, had migraines all the time. Started breathing with oxygen. Oh, hey, he even went to the hospital because we said, why don't you try oxygen? Funny thing is, his students thanked him. Did not know what he had done different, but they thanked him. His intensity on his subject and trying to get across his message, he would hold his breath constantly. He started taking that breath, and guess what? His students came up and said, hey, I can keep up with you now. I can actually learn more. As you breathe, so do I.
Wow. The power of the breath is another fascinating thing that I've been learning on in these past 2 years. And it started with a book that I read by Rickson Gracie, which is known by many as the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioner of all time, jiu-jitsu fighter. And he wrote his autobiography and titled it Breathe. And in there, he talks about the diaphragmatic breathing and using your diaphragm, because most of us, we do these short chest breathing just with the top part of our lungs. And when you engage that diaphragm, you can inflate your entire lungs and get that full, fresh breath of air. And another huge concept that he talks about in the book is during your exhale, that's the most important part, because you got to get all the bad used up air out. And you can use that diaphragm to compress your lungs and push all the air out. That way you can get a fresh breath of full air.
Well, okay, so I'm going to say that there's another way of doing it. I think it's called the Hofmeier. Okay. He's not even in this country. But so many of my elderly people actually said that with him, and I'm sorry if I said his name wrong, Hoffenhauer, and he would breathe in and only breathe out half what he breathed in. And they said that with this increase, they actually increased their chi.
Interesting.
And had bigger ability to hold their breath. So there's so many different forms of breathing, and that totally is different than anything we've ever been taught. I was always taught, like you said, you breathe out twice what you breathe in. And here comes this guy that says, oh, no. Flip that around. And it changed a lot of different things, but It had a different concept. Neither concept is wrong.
Right.
They both work it slightly different.
And they work in different ways.
And it's amazing, but they get the same results.
Interesting. Wow. But just having that focus on your breath and being able to do it with movements. Because like you said, I struggle in jiu-jitsu. When I'm doing a move, I'll be holding my breath because I'm so focused on doing the technique correctly. And then I'm like, don't forget to breathe, dude. You need oxygen. So, and that applies in everything. Like you said, lifting too. You're so focused on your form, you forget to breathe. And what would you say would help with that? Being able to do your physical activities and still keep your breath.
So you've got to start first with the breathing.
Okay.
And sometimes every emotion, again, is going to take your breathing. So you've got to bring it past your diaphragm. If you can't do that because of emotions, and guess what that is? Your fight or flight. It's your adrenals. Adrenals play an important role even in learning. You're so intent on learning, it does amp up your adrenals. Okay? So as soon as that's hitting, you stop breathing. Being bullied, everything you think about is going to hold your breath. remembering how to get it past your diaphragm. We live here where there's a lot of pecan trees. So the other part of the psoas, it actually goes around the front of your leg and grabs the back. We have grapplers for the pecan trees, and it grabs and shakes. The only muscle that attaches your spine to the leg is that psoas. So you forget to breathe, you grab up your legs. That's your freeze position if you're thinking of the adrenals. That's when you can't move because you become muscle bound. So many people think that their muscles are weak, and they're actually muscle bound because they're so tight.
Wow.
You breathe into it, you put your finger there, your knees unlock, your neck gets loosened, everything from the center point. So that center point is huge, just like where I'm putting the microphone. If I don't put it close enough, you can't hear me. The further away, it changes that whole thing. The same thing with your center of balance and gravity. If you don't have it, your brain can't hear where things are at. And then it starts misfunctioning and assuming. The brain assumes.
That's insane. And first, could you explain the psoas real quick? I want to dive into this deep because you just explained it to me, the importance of it, when I went to go see you this week. And I started using it not using it, but being conscious of it during my workouts. It changed the game. So will you just do a quick description or explanation of the psoas and the importance of it?
So if you're looking at a tree, your diaphragm is here. So it's not showing it here. This is just the psoas muscle, and it's attaching your spine.
Let me lift that up for you.
The diaphragm, and then here it is in front of the leg, but it attaches to the back side. Now, with that happening, here you are, you've got the grapplers in your legs, you've got your chest. If you can't breathe because your diaphragm's closed off, what happens? Pneumonia. They can't breathe because this is so tight. So there's something they actually call angry breathing or snort breathing.
What's that?
Well, you breathe only through the nose, which is way different. They'll say breathe through the nose and out the mouth. But if you want to push your diaphragm down, you're going to snort breathe. Now, you may want to have Kleenexes just in case, but when you do that and force it, you feel your lungs actually hit your diaphragm and push it down. You do this 3 to 5 times, and you start actually feeling more energy in your legs. Our new disease? Sitting. Why? Because we get so much in our head, we don't breathe past here. Even if we think of diaphragmatic breathing, in order to do that, you have to think. If you put your finger there, it's an automatic. You don't even have to think of breathing into it. Your breath automatically goes where your finger is. So you then, without thought, when I'm standing up on stage, I may take a deep breath, or if I can't remember to breathe, I put my finger on my stomach. This allows me to remember that I need to be out of my head a little bit. That's when the brain re-engages. It cannot always re-engage if your adrenals are in effect. Food eating, everything. So your food, there's 7 actual F's of the adrenals, and one of them is a 4-letter word that is not normally used. So I'm going to just use that. There's fight, flight, freeze, food, sex, so we know the F word there. But then there's also frenzy and frantic. Okay? Those are just round in circles. The other ones, when people took courses in psychology, they gained weight on one class. And that one class was the things that people did that no one would ever think we could do. And when they saw the depravities of the human nature, They ate. They stuffed themselves because they could not believe that this thing could happen. Then 30, 50 pounds later, they were going, how do I get this off? They had to relearn to breathe through that. So if you're not breathing through it, it becomes PTSD.
Wow.
The lack of breathing holds the emotion in. 60 to 80% of pain can be amplified by your emotions. So if you're not breathing, then that's going to amplify all pain that there is. Pain's real. The amplification can be changed drastically by unwinding those emotions.
Wow. Wow. And that's also been something that I've been learning about, is how these emotions can tie in with your body in ways that most people do not understand or are not conscious of. Can you talk a little bit about that and how our physical body is connected to emotion?
So, if you have a whole bunch of necklaces, each strand is a different emotion, okay? If you jumble them all together, you can't wear any of them. You can't understand any of them, and they're all together and they're knotted up. How does the body get knotted up? Emotions that don't get stranded out. All you have to do, and that's the biggest part, is we're so busy. Right now I say, oh, that was ages ago, and I think back, 24 hours ago is ages ago. How do you slow down? So, that breathing here, you don't have to stop what you're doing. You could live and breathe at the same time. Just get that action going. And sometimes tapping your foot. How many people tap their foot and get in trouble for it? Or they move and they're in trouble. Okay, what their body is trying to do is give them a subconscious idea that they're not getting circulation or oxygen there in that part of the body.
Whoa.
Right? So if you realize that, that's why spinners in all of this. So many of our kids, that's all they're doing is playing with their hands in front of the computer. That turns into fidgeting because they've already locked their bodies. How many people do not like PE anymore because their body just does not have that coordination that they think they should have? So the brain, if you practice, there's some people that they'll get on, do whatever, and they're instantaneously great at it. Actually not. According to Reeves, the guy that was Superman, they did a lot after he broke his neck and became paraplegic on the brain and how it works. And he was able to do almost everything by focusing different parts of the brain.
Whoa.
So, yeah, it's right there. Breathing into the brain got his oxygen going to where he could cause every part of his brain to move and function that way. We could do the same with our body if we listen to those little things we do, and we're like, just like you were working with your feet. Mm-hmm. You didn't realize how important that was going to be to you until it was. And then all of a sudden your brain's going, thank you, thank you. Those little things that we do are probably the most important things intuitively that's taking care of our body.
Really? Those little fidgets? Wow. That's crazy. I never thought of it like that. I thought it was just like boredom, I guess, but I didn't realize how it's our body exercising what's being neglected.
Yes. It's giving you latitudes and longitudes. The same thing as if you lean back, your chair tells you, oh, this is here, this is there. Sometimes you'll feel your shoulder being a little higher than it is on one side, so you settle back. You then give your brain different latitudes and longitudes without even realizing it. That's what it's doing to you. It's giving you that ability to know if you catch it. It's that common sense thing. Your body's talking to you, but do you know what it's saying? Not normally. Yeah. Not unless somebody points it out. Or you're working on one specific. the whole pie: food, hydration, oxygen, sleep. Now, so I worked with police officers. And the girls said that, number one, food they can't control. And a lot of times they can't control the water either, because every time they eat, they get a call. Every time they need to go to the bathroom, they have to call in because they're going to take their gun off. So they don't want everybody knowing their business or to be out in the middle of nowhere. So they limit their liquid for their shift. The only thing they cannot or have the ability to control at that point is their breathing. And they find that working that breathing gives them the ability to have the mental pause that allows them to go from being able to be active or proactive in what they do. Breathing has that ability to take the adrenals and give them a more clear function.
Wow. I have seen that in practice as well. I mean, I was...
Road rage?
No, I took this little communications course, and in one of the parts he was talking about how whenever you get nervous, a good way to handle your nerves is the Wim Hof breathing method.
That's the one I was talking about.
Okay. Oh, earlier. Gotcha. Okay, yeah, Wim Hof, he was saying with that breathing method, it'll calm you down and get rid of those nerves. And I've tried it when I've gotten super nervous before. Do the breathing technique 10 minutes and all those nerves are gone and I'm calm and ready to go.
So how can you get that breathing method as you're moving?
That's the question right there.
That is, and that's what you're working on doing, is being able to breathe as you live. Because holding your breath, watch a movie. You'll hold your breath close to 100 times. According to audio people that do audio, they say that in the movies, it used to be 20 seconds that they would change frames and change the whole action. Now it's every 6 seconds. That's how fast your brain is working.
Wow.
Okay, so if they're doing every 6 seconds, what is it on a child? 3 seconds. That's why there's so much movement in children's movies. They're not listening to the conversation near as much as they are the movement. That's what holds them.
Wow.
So I was talking about...
Chores?
Chores. What's a chore that is in more books than not, all having different reasons for why you do it?
Making your bed?
You got it. Okay? And making the bed is something, if you go to the military says that if you make your bed perfect in the morning, they're going to they're going to not be nice to you all day. But if you have one thing that day that you did right, you've made your day. So then you look at, if you go talk to your parents, oh yeah, they want that bed made. If the bed's made first thing in the morning, they're in a happier mood. Isn't that a great thing to have your parents a little happier? Then you look at these magazines that say, in the evening, if your bed is made, and you are going to get into it, you sleep better in a bed that's been made than a crumpled bed. Same with your clothes. You actually feel better if your clothes fall in the right way on your body. You look better, your confidence is different. All of that has to do with the way you wear your clothes. Do you know some people will pick their clothes out at the beginning of the week and some will do it that morning? Do you know why?
No.
It's how their brain's functioning that day. If you pick your clothes out for the whole week, then they say that you are setting your tone every day on a monotone. If you wake up, like say if you're uniformed, that's why military and all of them, it is a monotone that they want everyone to share. It's not negative. They just want everyone on the same page. So that's why they do uniforms. If you wake up and you put on yellow or red or whatever color that's going to be different for you that day, it's because that's where your brain is functioning. They're showing color therapy now, where different colors will give you different healing factors. This is one of the reasons that they found it, is because your brain is saying, I don't want to wear that red. I want to wear this color.
And that's just how you're feeling that day, your emotions, mood.
Yes. So if you saw somebody in a brilliant red or blue, they'd be striking, right?
Right.
So that's actually what they call that. They say that if there's an energy, it's going to strike off of them almost like lightning, and it's going to go in several different rampant directions. If you wear black or brown, you're more absorbing. They don't even really see you there. I won't say that you're a wallflower, but you are more able to turtle in, be where you are, and not be noticed as much. Pastels help you breathe.
Pastels?
It's infusing more like light. They say that there's no definition for dark. It's the absence of light. Dense energy. I don't consider energy to be negative or positive. I consider it to be dense or diffused. Those lighter colors are liable to diffuse the energy so it's not so tight. And that diffusion, all it is it's putting a soft glow. And that softness allows the light to come out.
Wow. And the clothes you're wearing can affect that.
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, they say that the lights have everything to do with your sleep. The flashing when I lived in Texas, Carlton, Texas, they started off light therapy back there in the early 80s. They would have you wear glasses. And these glasses would have itty-bitty little lights that would blink. The color of your lens has a whole lot to do with things. If you're reading...
I just ordered some red glasses.
Uh-oh.
Red lenses.
Yes.
So apparently they're blue light blockers to help with your circadian rhythm to wear at night when the sun goes down. And that's supposed to help your sleep cycle and your day cycle, all that, your circadian rhythm. And I got me a red light in my room, which I've been using at night, right before bed. Instead of scrolling on my phone, which would keep me up for who knows how long, instead now I'm turning on this red light and reading before bed. And I fall asleep way quicker, I get better rest, and I wake up well rested. And so now I'm like, okay, let me try these red glasses, see if that makes a difference. If I throw these on as soon as the sun goes down while I'm at home, and we'll see. So they haven't come in yet, but I'm excited to try that out.
And so it says to wait until the sun's going down.
After the sun goes down.
Yes. So see, that's also something that affects almost every coloration. If the light bothers you, they usually have you wear a green or a blue so that filters out those UV rays. So that makes so much sense, the red after the sun goes down. There's that common sense that I didn't even think about on that issue. There's so many of these little things that are out there, and you're going, that makes so much sense. Never thought about it, and was even embarrassed that I did that.
Absolutely. And for me, a huge one was the Psoas. And wow, I mean, we talked about it when I went to see you this week, and you said the biggest thing about it was it connects your upper body to your lower body, and it's the main muscle that makes that connection. So here I was working on my posture and body alignment, starting from the feet up, but I was having so much trouble with my upper body and getting my upper body in alignment, because I've got a hip that's out of whack, and then my shoulder sags, and then my neck's cranked to compensate. And when I was thinking about the psoas during my workouts, I was just going into my mind and trying to feel that muscle in there. It helped with my alignment. Insane. Like, I can't describe how much it helped. And it also helped with my strength and stability. During my exercises, I'm just like using that muscle, like especially for the leg stuff. And I was like, whoa, I've got more control. And I'm feeling these connections like from my neck all the way down to my feet. And I can feel that line just through my anterior and posterior chains of connection that I did not have before. And all it took was you telling me about it and then me thinking about it. And now I've got this new ability and concept that I can use to help me. And there's so many of these little things that, like you said, you don't know until you know. And it's that common sense, but it takes somebody to tell you, and then you can conceptualize it, visualize it, go into your mind and feel it. Another big one for me is the spine. I think because of my alignment, I've had my feet off, my hips are off, so that throws my spine off. So I'd say I have a mild case of scoliosis just because my spine is compensating for all these misalignments. But when I really focus and think, I can visualize and feel where my spine is off to the side, and I can adjust anywhere along that spine until I get it aligned. And I don't know, I'd love to hear your perspective on how we can use our minds to unlock new abilities and capabilities with our body.
So, first, oxygen, right?
Oxygen.
It does not work right.
Number one.
The balance allows the brain, which if you'll consider it to be a bowl of jelly is going to take any shape that it's in. So if your brain has been injured in any way, your skull has been injured in any way, you're going to find that that part of your brain does not function to the same degree. So that right there is something to think about.
Whoa.
Then you add the alignment. So every part of your body is going to affect your brain. I'll tell people, so what is it? Newton's law of relativity, whatever happens above happens below. Okay, so that's in your body as well. If you break it down and say you're working on the hips, one of the other places I tell people, I don't tell them to watch where their feet land, I tell them to watch their knees. The reason for this is you want to have that tracking just straight up. And a lot of people, they'll take one leg out a little bit and one leg straight. Why is that? Because at the hips, it's not working all of those muscles. So you can't undo the hips, you can't undo the feet, you undo what's in the middle of it.
The psoas.
So you track the you're
knees.
Looking from
hip to feet.
So you look here.
Okay.
Then if you're looking here, you could go smaller. You've got your knees and you're tracking there. So you go halfway between the leg. That's where a lot of the muscles are going to attach, is halfway. So then you've got that going, and once you keep breaking it down, each half you go to the middle of it, and that's going to be clearing for the top and bottom. They'll do something when they're working out on muscles. They'll put a band on part of it, and that what that does is that makes that muscle work above and below. Same thing. So you use the brain. If you're tight in your psoas, your brain's going to be tight too, because the gut and the brain have exactly everything the same. There's nothing in your brain that's not in your gut, and vice versa from what they're learning now.
That's what I've heard, the gut-brain axis.
Right. So with that being said, how do you access it? You have to get past that diaphragm. So there again, there's that balance. If you put KT tape on your diaphragm front and back, you get 20% more breathing instantly.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Because you're working those muscles and giving them a little bit of a vacation right there. So if they're vacationing, then they're a little more relaxed, and it's an instant to the brain. The minute you think vacation, what does your brain do? Does it go into a different world? People that their last 2 years of work, it's almost a vacation brain. They can't be fired, basically. So therefore, they're able to breathe more. And they don't realize that. When you go on vacation, what do you do when you come back? You're a whole lot more open. And I tell people, you need to go on vacation more. And they say, we can't. Then you need to learn to breathe like you're on vacation.
Wow. Just giving you that relaxed feeling and unlocks your mind and gives you new possibilities to think, because you've been so locked up and stressed and tight in your daily life and the systems we're stuck in and the chaos. And you get to go on that vacation, gives you some peace. You get to breathe and unlock some inner peace.
Then let's go back to clothes again. Okay,
yeah.
So the clothes you wear
Okay.
can make a huge difference. We've talked back and forth about heels being good or not good for people.
High heels?
High heels, exactly. High heels and the armored vest that the police officers and military wear have so many similarities. When you wear the vest, there's an outer vest and there's an inner vest. The outer vest and inner vest, they give about 3 to 6 inches differentiation in your back. When you wear the outer vest, they're more apt to hold their upper body because it tries to come up on them. So the inner vest, they feel different depending on what they're wearing, the inner vest and outer vest. Shoes are the same way. If you wear heels and then go to flats, that change every day or once or twice a week wear heels, it does more than just looks good. Number one, it releases the feel-good endorphins in your brain, which is similar to getting your hair done, looking at your nails. Women that get their nails done, they look at those every time they need an endorphin run. Oh my gosh, look, that looks good. Okay,
Yes.
So it's not just
Physical.
yes, it's one of the most emotional things you could do. Heels are the same way. If you look at the foot, the inner part of the foot is the control and reflexology for your adrenals. The outer part at that same point in the middle of the foot controls your lymph. So when women wear heels, that affects our lymph, which changes our weight, which changes the way we think, which changes our stress level.
Wow.
Nowadays, so many of us wear nothing but flats, and what happens is we're also walking different. Our center of gravity changes. You have the same center of gravity all the time, and you become a lot more solid. You working with wrestling and martial arts, you have to have a center of gravity wherever your body's at. You're almost like the Matrix.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's one of the key components. Your center of gravity, if it's off, you're going to get flipped and they're going to end up on top.
Yes. And so that's the same thing with heels and those vests. You change that center of gravity to make do with what's going on. You could change anything you want. I talked to a wrestler, and I told this wrestler, I said, what you want to do, because she's a little itty-bitty girl, okay? And she actually ended up going and getting a scholarship. Her key, she looked for the wrinkles in their body. She says, I've got all this technique. I know how to do it all. What I don't know is how to change my weight differentiation. And if she's on the low end and they're on the high end, that's 20 so pounds of weight change. Mm-hmm. So what she did was she tried to figure out how to find their weakness. You look at their clothes, and wherever that wrinkle is, that's the tension muscles. Whoa. So she started doing that, and she said, all it took, I had all the technique, I had everything. She had the weight. I could not get her off of me. I found that, and that's where I touched, and boom, I was on top. I won. Wow. All because I could find, through her wrinkles, her weak point.
Whoa. Well, you're talking about shifting that center of gravity with the heels and the vest. Is that like it's giving your body a new form to play with, so it opens up where you're being closed all the time?
Okay. I had the ability to wear the vest for 3 days. Now, They asked me to mouth the words to Happy Birthday because I have no ability to sing. I put that vest on. That was the clearest. The first day. Let's clarify that. The first day, that was the cleanest breathing I've ever had.
Really?
I had more energy that day. There was nothing I couldn't do. I went from 9 o'clock in the morning, and this actually happened to be on New Year's, so I wore it all the way to the drop of the chili. Now, the second day, I thought, okay, I'm going to try a few things. So I tried eating with that vest on. Oh, no. You hold that tension. The same thing. If you hold tension at your diaphragm, your eating changes. So there it was. I couldn't eat because it was restricted right there. Then I thought, well, I don't have a gun on, but let's see. If I cross my leg, that does the same thing. So the middle third part of the second day, I was so bruised on the opposite side. It was like, okay, you can't move there, so I guess I'm not going to move. I'm right here. Third day, I'm wearing that vest. And me and Clint Eastwood, we'd have been friends. Because make my day at the end of the third day in that vest. That's why they have them put it on at the very beginning so that their body gets used to it. If they first go into the military or anything, they wear that vest a lot. That's why. It changes every part of your body, and you've got to get used to your skin having that bruised feeling.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
So then we're going to talk one more on the military. No, I was never in it, but I went to Norfolk and came back talking with a whole group of people, and they said that, number one, we have well over a third of our military that's no longer from the United States. That held my breath. I'm thinking, we have all these other countries in. Should I be scared? No. They said that was one of the best things that they had ever felt because there was so much different abilities to bring all of these different thoughts into focus. So they brought breathing from every area. Now, what they did say, they did 20% better than any of their other crews when they were done with basic training. Now, why? Their commanding officer or their drill sergeant used to be Navy SEALs. What he taught them was breathing as they did everything. That breathing is something we don't normally teach, they say, until they're in the higher ranking, till they become a Navy SEAL. The breathing is not so important. They just say, hey, you breathe in, it'll come out. Or you breathe out, it's going to come in. So they don't give you techniques on that. But he did. He said, you want to focus on your breathing. 20% overall better across the board on every one of the things that they did.
Wow.
Easy. Because it fed their body better than anything else.
There's no doubt about it. It helps clear up your mind, your muscles, your alignment, your focus, your problem-solving abilities.
Your toxins.
Your toxins.
Yes, because toxins, you move your muscles, you've got lactic acid. That lactic acid starts acting like paper mache. If it's wet and pliable and it has enough water in it or liquid, it's movable and you could do almost anything. Soon as you quit hydrating, however, it becomes glued. If you're glued, you have little to no movement. It could take up to 3 to 6 inches of movement back and forth away if your whole body's glued. So, marketing. They have something now called body sculpting that estheticians do.
I've seen that.
Okay, so we used to call it, part of it was like rolfing, skin rolling, fascia release. Now, if you hear those 4 words, which one are you going to want to try?
Fascia release?
Okay, so you say fascia release because you know what fascia is.
Right.
Most people, they hear those and they're going to say, that all sounds painful, but body sculpting, oh, that sounds good. And so out of 30 plus years of being a massage therapist, as soon as I use the word body sculpting, everybody said, I want to try it.
Yeah.
But I said fascia release, rolfing, skin rolling, and they're like, no. I'd get maybe 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000.
Right.
So marketing is also huge on opening up people's eyes to all of that ability.
That's a great point. The language you use can determine if someone's going to be open to trying it or not. Wow. So can you go a little bit more into the fascia release?
So if
and how it helps the body sculpting?
Fascia, it's very much like the paper mache, and once it's stuck, you have no movement. So fascia is very much like a tortilla. So if you have cookies or bread and you roll out bread or a tortilla in a ball, it's going to stay in that ball if you put it in the oven. A cookie is going to melt. So if you consider muscles, they're going to be more like cookies. They have that ability to spread out and melt with heat. Fascia does not. You actually have to roll it and knead it, almost like you're doing bread or our area tortillas. We have to roll it out. If you don't roll it out, it stays bunched and bundled. That bunched and bundled from the top of your diaphragm all the way down to the pelvic girdle, you have one huge blading of fascia. Now, all your muscles are full of it. It's that little white stuff in between. But you've got a full sheathing there and in the back. And this is one place a lot of people don't realize is how much fascia is on the side of the leg. They see the IT band and they think that's very small and skinny. But the IT band actually goes almost all the way halfway to the back of the butt. Covers almost the whole buttocks area. We'll use buttocks, thank you. And then down to the leg to where your fibula is. Now, the fibula is kind of like a shock absorber. It moves up and down and back and forth. There's no holding point for it. And so if that gets tight, which shin splints, hold that in place, and then you start having more and more problems. The more shin splinted your body is, the more you could have problems with your legs into the hips, up the back, pulling your head forward, all of that. If you release the side of the legs, the stomach, and the back, and that skin rolling, whether you do the skin rolling, the body sculpting, and they use that either with machines or manually, depending on if you have metal in your body. They say it makes a big difference on the machines or by hand. The by hand is more like what we do as massage therapists, but they've got the marketing down. So all you have to do is you lift the skin up off, and that sounds all you have to do. It's painful. But that's oxygen. So KT tape, all it does is lift that skin up and off. What does it do? It puts oxygen underneath. One of the best healing qualities of KT tape is that your oxygenation level changes drastically immediately.
Wow.
Then it gives you an extra layer of muscle. So almost like your muscle in that area is on vacation. It has movement. It has give. It's not locked in. And it's got a little bit of extra help.
Wow. That's crazy. How the KT tape can help open you up. I've felt it. You've put it on me before for my back, and it's definitely extra support. But I don't know. Like you said, I thought it was more a placebo, but it's actually physically helping by increasing the oxygen in that area and improving the healing. Because more oxygen means more healing.
Yeah. The healing, oxygen is the number one healing for everything. It really is. Oxygen, hydration. Well, oxygen, hydration, food, and sleep. But the two, what are the ones you could control? The breathing. That's the only one that you have the best control of, and that helps control all the others. And so if you're breathing, oxygen, KT tape, support, yes, it's huge.
Crazy. Yeah, Wim Hof, the guy we mentioned earlier with the breathing techniques, he says you can improve your immune system and heal disease with breathing. And I mean, of course, it takes an intense level of control and practice with the breath to do that, but maybe not. Like we say, it just takes that common sense of knowing, but you got to know, you got to hear it from somewhere, and then you unlock that new ability.
So I worked in a dental office for 2 years, and they do something there that's, I worked doing massage therapy, and I was learning something called chirodontics. Chirodontics is helping oxygen to the brain, and they work with something called oral systemic balance, which is creating the ability of the front 4 teeth and C1, C2 to balance out. You go to the chiropractor after the dentist, and they said, oh, the dentist put your jaws out, so it messed up your neck. You go to the chiropractor, and the dentist says, yeah, your jaw's all off because your neck's now been changed. And so you're going, okay, how do I get these two to work together? And balancing those two out, doing cranial work. There's a woman, her name I believe is Emma Gawkill, wrote a book. She went to all of these countries that had no chiropractors, no back doctors, and they had no back problems. One of the things that they did was they took a towel, rolled the towel up long ways, and laid on it on their spine. We do so much forward that all of our muscles are cramped this way.
On the phones, on the computer.
Yes. So you put that on your back, it opens things up, it allows you to stretch out. You use that red light, and you're going to find that it oxygenates even further into your body by having the body open and that alignment there. And then you add the light, and your body's just going, oh my gosh, I'm in heaven.
Wow. So back to alignment. You mentioned you wanted to talk about the plumb line. What is the plumb line?
The plumb line is just a straight line. If you think about construction, if you are a quarter of an inch off at the bottom, by the time you get to the top of that building, you're way off, and nothing's going to add up. If you ride a horse and your balance is off on that horse, you could maim your horse because you lean a little too far back on one hip. And that's going to maim his back leg because he's going to be now walking and running like that. In that same format as what your hips are. When I first learned to ride a horse, the woman would not allow me on her horse until I learned balance.
Whoa.
She said, no, I have only Arabians. You will not hurt a single one of my horses. So first, I had to put my feet on a step and really drop the ankles down. So, balance that way. Then, I had a cinder block in front of me. I had to be able to lift one foot, move that cinder block up, down to one side, back up, down to the other, with my foot still at that angle, and then do it to the other side. Until I could do that, I could not even touch her horse to let it run.
Wow.
My balance had to be there before I even touched the reins on her horses.
That's crazy. I never thought of it like that, how the rider on the horse can affect the horse. But of course, because if you're heavy on one point, it's got to compensate. And it's going to throw them off in balance. Just like we do with our bodies when we have an injury or misalignment.
Yes. So she taught me then I had to ride bareback. And not only that, but I had to be able to lean forward, cross my legs, sit side saddle on one, turn around, and ride that horse backwards. Then turn to the other side saddle, go all the way back straddled, and then lean forward again. That was how she decided my Psoas had the balance for her horses.
Whoa. That's wild.
Yeah, the Psoas. But that plumb line, it's all it is a straight line. If you are in a shirt that has seams on the side and a pair of pants, your middle finger should go in alignment with that. That's the same thing they tell you in the military. It's the same thing if you dress up. You have the zipper, the shirt, everything in alignment, the belt. You don't have the belt off to some weird angle because it just does not look right. All of that makes the hugest difference in your confidence and ability. If you have pants that don't fit well, do you walk into a room feeling comfortable?
No.
So, yeah, all of that has to deal with your inner balance as inner balance.
Can you expand that?
It's your brain thought on how your ego, your id, basically, it's how you think of you. So there's 3 ways they say people think. They think, how others think, and how they want you to think. Right. We had to do an exercise in that as massage therapists.
Really?
Yes. It was a class that we did. How do you think people think of you? How do you think of you? How do you want them to think of you? Just having those 3 thoughts changes all of your ability towards you and someone else.
Wow. And that's related to your physical body?
Do you walk the same if you feel confident than when you're not?
For sure, it's different.
Exactly. Do you talk to people? Do you hold your head down? Everything has to do with how you feel about yourself. Untangling those emotions and breathing, you get that going, and there's very little that you can't do in anything. Because if you're not tangled, you have no hesitation. You just keep going. Your confidence is very much, if you look at a CEO and Genghis Khan, according to the book One by Richard Bach, says that there's no real difference. What they did in cutting off heads was actually the same thing that a CEO would do when he goes to make a business more profitable. He cuts out the waste, takes people's jobs. That's cutting their head off. But they don't see it in that format. So there's really those same characteristics of survival and command and how you think of yourself. If you don't feel you could survive, you're more clinging. You need somebody there to help you. So you find somebody that is going to, that you could stand and lean on. So if you're not balanced, you find somebody who is usually, or you'll find 2 imbalances that make a balance.
Wow. That's crazy. That was a beautiful visual right there. So the inner balance, I think that exercise you talked about, just thinking about how you view yourself, how others view you, and how you want them to view you, I think that's a great tool to help with your inner balance. Do you have any other tips that could help with the inner balance?
So one of them that they teach us is if you jump a lot, okay, if people scare you.
Oh.
Okay, so what they taught us is most of us in our peripheral vision, we know where everything's coming. But what happens if somebody comes behind us? So they had us do this class where 2 people stood, one with their eyes closed, the other would walk around them and they would just lightly touch or even go into their energy area, okay? And that person would make different moves according to what you did. So with that being said, what they would have us do would be to use a clear light all the way around us. And they use clear light because white always attracts black. Anytime I wear white, I get dirty. So they said clear works better because no one sees it. It's see-through. So no one realizes that you have an armor that's out here that is usually about 3 feet.
That's your energy zone?
That's where you don't want... If people come in closer than 3 feet to you, do you not kind of want to step back?
Yeah.
Right. So that's your energy zone. I had a person who's a psychologist, and he actually came real close to me. Stood right in front of me, and I'm like, dude, no. And backed up, and he just burst out laughing. He said, thank you. I just wanted to see where your your balance was. And that tells him a lot about people and how they'll let others injure or hurt them. Because if they let them in real close, real fast, then their ability to hold somebody off mentally or physically is impaired right there. So we put this clear barrier to where people don't get any closer than that. They don't have to know it's there. You do. And you keep that barrier there. And I do a clear light all the way around versus just that peripheral. And that was the key for almost all of us, was where we cannot see is where we're most vulnerable. Mm-hmm. So we just shielded all the way around.
Wow. That's crazy. The energy zone, your energy field, that's kind of can be like a woo topic for some people. Like, I don't know.
Okay. You light a switch. That switch gives you electricity. That electricity is energy. So you can't see it, but it's there. So it's the same with your body. You feed it. You're plugged in. You're a computer's dead unless it's plugged in. So the body energy, you could use that energy saying it's our electrical current. If I said electrical current, would that make people feel better? Yes. Some people would. And so electrical current in your body is another way of saying energy.
And you said the computer needs to be plugged in for power. How can the human plug in?
Food, water, oxygen, and sleep.
Simple.
Now, yeah, it seems simple, but you've got this little pie and trying to fill it all in. Okay, so you're someplace where you don't eat the same. You eat food that is not the healthiest.
Yeah, which is easy to do nowadays.
But how can you change that and make the food you eat, no matter what you eat, healthy?
Cook.
Well, there's that, but say you can't cook it. So what you do is you tell your body, for the highest good, let this be. Now, if you look at the DeLorean in Back to the Future, we're just going to keep going. The DeLorean, when it first started, only the most best fuel. The last one, you could put trash in it. So how do you get the body to be like the DeLorean? Your body, after so many times, it does start processing whatever you feed it.
Adapting.
It adapts. Now, if you look back over time, that adaptation was also every time we did a blood change from O to A to B was when there was a drastic change in our food line. So, now that we eat out so much, how is our body rearranging to where it's going to make do with this? Because if you change the rearrangement in the body, it has to rearrange the head. So there goes some mental issues because of what you're eating. They
100%.
did the McDonald's, 30 days of McDonald's. After that, the body started readapting, and he did lose some weight if he had continued on. Some other people tried that.
Whoa.
The body starts adapting.
Dang. That's crazy. The human body's insane. Just the way, how resilient and adaptable it is, and how it can withstand all this trash and torture that we put it through, and it just keeps going and evolving. But one thing is pain. I'm a firm believer that when we feel pain, it's our body saying, hey, something's wrong. Let's not do that.
Yeah, but that's if you don't talk to psychologists. They're now they're actually teaching them now that pain is all in your brain. So I talked to an old school psychologist, and he said it is in your brain. There is a part of your brain that gives you that pain report.
No doubt.
But what they're not looking at is how the emotions amplify it. When I work on somebody, so many times an injury or PTSD of an injury has to do with the emotional balance. It's huge. If you have an emotion working with that pain, you're amplified up to 100 times. That's why
Up
pain...
to 100 times?
So
it's crazy.
You lost a child, and you had an accident, and you were the driver. There it is, right there. You will not get past it until you get past what's inside your body and the emotions that it brings out.
Wow.
You can't heal ever, because every time something like that happens, it keeps coming back. I was racing down the streets of Albuquerque one day against the kid's baby daddy, and I hit a light pole because I was going to win. Yeah, I didn't win, and there was always trouble every time I was around a light pole again, and I still drive like I'm a race car driver. So then there was another time I was in the middle lane, and somebody sideswiped me. Now, every time I was 18, I'm hitting closer to 70 now, so that's 50 years, and I still am affected when I am between two cars going down a 4-lane highway. And I really have to, breathe through it. Get that emotion under control.
Breathe.
There's no one going to try and kill me here. No one's sideswiping me, but I'm there.
Breathe through it.
Breathe through it. PTSD has so much to do with allowing that emotion to release and let the necklace be a single strand versus jumbled up.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. It was incredible. I learned a ton, and hopefully someone else could have learned something from our conversation, but I'd love to have you on again sometime in the future and maybe dive into another topic. But thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I would love to, because as you could see, I have a 1,000-watt mouth, and I just start talking, and it just keeps going. So if you could handle it, I have not an issue with talking. And it's a subject that has been probably the most passionate, which
no doubt.
Public speaking. I had a teacher in Bryan, Texas, who said, if you're afraid of speaking, you have to find something that you're passionate about. It takes you out of the equation. And that's what you saw here as well, was a passion because of a speech and drama teacher in my high school years. Teachers are one of the most important parts that you could ever give your child, is that teaching ability.
Wow. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because you have this abundance of knowledge, and I can tell you have that passion of sharing it. Just because when I went to see you, you're working on me, and you're just explaining all this stuff and educating me on these so many different connections that I didn't have before. I'm like, we need to have a podcast because you've got it, and being able to teach that and pass it on to the future generations, because we can't let some of this insane knowledge be lost. Because you've been doing this for how long?
Since before most people that are watching this were born. So since the beginning of the 90s. So
Wow.
35 years.
So you've seen it all.
Oh, no. Every client I work on teaches me.
Oh,
that's why I
insane.
still have such a passion for doing this work. Most massage therapists, they're done after 10 years. I'm still doing it at 35, and I am so fascinated with the human body and how it changes within a split second. You give it a piece of information, you don't even have the same body. You take something away, and it takes it away too. It is all to do with your ability to be open to what's out there.
I think that's a great way to end it right there. That was an absolute bar.
Thank you.
Thank you.